It all started with a job I thought would just be a stepping stone. Nothing more, nothing less. A steady paycheck, long hours, and a demanding boss, pretty much the usual grind. I wasn't looking for anything unexpected. I definitely wasn't looking for love, and especially not the kind that could ruin everything. But life has a strange way of throwing you into situations you never saw coming, and mine came in the form of her. She was my boss's daughter. That sentence alone should have been a warning. A full stop. But the way she walked into the office that day, confident, curious, and completely unaware of the chaos she'd cause, still plays on repeat in my head. Her name was Emily. She wasn't just beautiful, she had that kind of energy that pulled people in without even trying. And me? I was just another name on the payroll, just another face in the background. But somehow, she noticed me. At first, it was just polite smiles in the hallway. Small talk near the coffee machine. Then she started sitting across from me during lunch breaks, asking about my life, my goals, my dreams. I tried to keep it professional. I really did. I kept reminding myself who she was and who I was. I couldn't risk my job. I couldn't give my boss a reason to fire me, or worse, hate me. But the more I tried to ignore the spark between us, the stronger it grew. And deep down, I think she felt it too. One evening, everyone had left the office except us. We were going over some files she needed help with. The air felt different. Heavier. And then, in the middle of a sentence, she looked at me, really looked at me, and just leaned in. Before I could even process what was happening, she kissed me. Not a light kiss. Not an accidental brush. A real, intentional kiss that made my heart pound and my mind race. And in that one moment, everything changed. It felt like time froze, and all I could think about was the 1,000 things that could go wrong. What if someone saw us? What if her father found out? What if this was just a game to her? My world, which had been so simple and routine, suddenly became complicated and full of risk. I pulled away, unsure, my head spinning. But I could see it in her eyes, this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. What followed after that night wasn't something I could have predicted. The secret meetings, the close calls, the growing feelings that refused to fade. It was a forbidden love, the kind you're warned about in every workplace manual. But this wasn't a story from a rulebook. This was real. Messy. Dangerous. And unforgettable. But what happened next? I never saw coming. After that night, nothing felt normal anymore. The office looked the same, the people sounded the same, but everything had changed for me. I kept replaying the kiss in my mind, wondering what it meant for her, and for me. Emily acted like nothing happened the next morning, just smiled, nodded politely, and carried on with her day. But every time our eyes met, I knew we were both pretending. It wasn't just a kiss. It was a line we crossed. And in our world, hers especially, that line was more like a wall. Her father, Mr. Lawson, wasn't just my boss. He was the kind of man who demanded respect without saying a word. Tough, sharp, and incredibly protective of his daughter. He once fired someone just for showing up 10 minutes late. Imagine what he'd do if he found out someone like me was getting close to her. I didn't grow up with connections. I worked hard for every opportunity, and this job meant everything. I wasn't just risking a paycheck, I was risking my future. But at the same time, I couldn't shake off how she made me feel. Every conversation with Emily felt different now. There was something unspoken in the way she stood a little closer, the way her voice softened when she spoke to me. Then came the rumors. Whispers in the break room. Side glances when we passed by. I don't know if people saw something or if they were just guessing, but suddenly, I felt like a spotlight was on us. One mistake, one slip, and everything could fall apart. Still, I couldn't stop myself. I was drawn to her like a secret I couldn't keep. But I had no idea what was coming next, and just how deep I was about to get. The pressure kept growing. What started as a secret moment now felt like a ticking time bomb. Emily was bold, far bolder than I expected. She started texting me after hours, asking to meet, to talk, to escape the stiffness of the office. And every time I said yes, a part of me felt alive, and another part terrified. I wasn't just falling for her, I was falling into something I couldn't control. One evening, we met at a quiet little coffee shop on the edge of town. No work talk, no sneaking glances over our shoulders. Just two people trying to feel normal. She opened up about her father, how strict he'd always been, how he never let her make her own choices. He thinks he can choose who I love too, she said, looking straight at me. That hit me harder than I expected. Because deep down, I knew this wasn't just a crush anymore. Back at work, things started to shift. Mr. Lawson began acting colder toward me, shorter replies, more nitpicking, assigning me late-night reports. It felt like he sensed something. And then there was Jordan, another coworker who always seemed to be watching. He had a thing for Emily, that much was obvious. And now he looked at me like I was in his way. I started wondering, did he see us? Was he planning to say something? The walls were closing in. Emily wanted to keep seeing me. I wanted that too. But the risk, it was everywhere. In every text. Every glance. Every moment we were alone. I was caught between protecting my job and following something that finally felt real. And the scariest part? I had a feeling the worst hadn't even started yet. It all started crashing down the week of the annual corporate dinner. It was one of those big, formal events where every employee had to show up looking sharp, pretending everything was perfect. Emily told me she'd be there too, of course, by her father's side, smiling like the perfect daughter. We agreed to keep our distance that night. No eye contact, no risky moves. Just one night of pretending nothing was happening. But when I saw her walk in, something inside me shifted. She looked incredible, and I wasn't the only one who noticed. Jordan was right behind her, laughing like they were more than just colleagues. I tried to play it cool, but I could feel the heat rising in my chest. Every time I looked their way, it felt like a warning, like something was being taken from me. Later that evening, Mr. Lawson gave a speech. Everyone clapped, laughed at his jokes, raised their glasses. But I wasn't really listening. I kept thinking about what would happen if someone found out. What if Jordan had already told him? What if tonight was a trap? I stepped outside to get some air, and a few minutes later, Emily followed. She stood close to me in the dark, her voice low. "He knows something," she whispered. "I can feel it." Her hands trembled slightly, and for the first time, I saw real fear in her eyes. "I don't know how long we can keep this going." Just then, we heard footsteps behind us. Sharp, firm steps. We turned, and saw a shadow standing just at the edge of the hallway light. No voice. No expression. Just silence. My heart sank. This was it. The moment everything could collapse. And we had no idea what was coming next. The figure stepped into the light, and it wasn't Mr. Lawson. It was Jordan. His expression wasn't angry, but it wasn't friendly either. Just unreadable. He looked at us, then slowly crossed his arms, like he'd been expecting this. "Relax," he said quietly. "I'm not here to start a scene." Emily tensed beside me. I couldn't tell if she was angry or afraid. Maybe both. Jordan looked straight at me. "You're not as invisible as you think." He didn't wait for a response. Just handed me a folded piece of paper and walked away without another word. I looked at Emily. She shook her head, clearly just as confused. When I opened the note, my stomach dropped. It wasn't a threat, it was worse. It was a printed screenshot of a text Emily had sent me earlier that week. One that made it very clear how close we really were. Somehow, Jordan had gotten into her phone. Or maybe he saw a notification. Whatever it was, we were exposed. And now, he had proof. Emily grabbed the paper from my hand and stared at it in disbelief. "He's going to use this," she whispered. "He's going to tell my father." The next morning at work felt like walking into a storm with no umbrella. Jordan acted normal, too normal. He smiled, cracked jokes, even made coffee for the team. But I could feel the pressure building. I couldn't concentrate. Every time Mr. Lawson called my name, I thought it was the moment. But it never came. And that's what made it worse, waiting for something I couldn't stop. Then, late that afternoon, I got an email from HR, subject line, "Scheduled meeting, 3:30 p.m. today." No explanation. Just a time and location. I stared at it for what felt like hours. Emily messaged me, "Did you get it too?" My heart nearly stopped. She had a meeting at the exact same time. Different room. Same floor. That's when it hit me, Jordan hadn't just told Mr. Lawson. He went straight to HR. And now, they were splitting us up, to get the story out of both sides. I could feel the walls closing in. One wrong word, and we'd lose everything. The job, the trust, maybe even each other. And the worst part? I still didn't know if we could trust him. Because Jordan wasn't done yet. Not even close. I walked into the HR office with my heart pounding so loud I could barely hear myself think. 2 reps were already seated, faces unreadable, a closed folder on the table in front of them. I didn't know if it held our messages, or photos, or something worse. I kept telling myself to stay calm, to not say anything that could make this spiral further. "Do you have anything you'd like to share?" one of them asked gently, like I was already halfway guilty. I paused. My mind raced. Was it better to come clean? Or pretend nothing ever happened? But then something happened I didn't expect. Mr. Lawson walked in. He didn't say a word at first. Just stood there, arms crossed, eyes locked on me. For a moment, I truly thought I was done. But then he sat down and slid that same folded paper across the table, the one Jordan had given me. He looked tired. Not angry. Just tired. "I already know," he said. "I've known for a while." I froze. Emily had told me he'd never accept this. That he'd lose it. But here he was, calm, composed, almost human. "I was angry at first," he continued. "But I've seen how she looks at you. And whether I like it or not, I can't control who she chooses." I didn't know what to say. I expected a fight, not understanding. But just when it seemed like the storm had passed, the final twist hit. Mr. Lawson opened the folder and pulled out another paper. "What you don't know," he said, "is that Jordan didn't just come to me. He's been feeding fake stories to other employees. Trying to start rumors. Manipulating things behind the scenes." He leaned forward. "Not to protect Emily, but to get your job. Turns out, Jordan had been gunning for my position for months. He used our secret to gain leverage, hoping it would push me out and leave a space open for himself. But in doing so, he revealed more than he planned: emails, chats, screenshots that painted a very different picture. HR was already launching an investigation. By the time I left that office, my job was safe. Emily's name was cleared. But Jordan? He was gone by the end of the day. And just like that, what nearly tore everything apart ended up revealing who really couldn't be trusted. After everything that happened, walking out of that building felt different. The tension, the fear, it was gone. Emily was waiting for me just outside the lobby. She looked at me like she had 100 questions, but all I could do was smile and nod. "We're okay," I told her. And for the first time in weeks, it actually felt true. In the days that followed, things slowly began to settle. Mr. Lawson kept his distance at first, But then one morning, he called me into his office, not to lecture me, not to warn me, but just to talk. He asked me if I was serious about Emily. I said yes without hesitation. He didn't give me his blessing exactly, but he didn't stop us either. And that was more than I ever expected. Emily and I decided to keep things quiet at work for a while. We didn't want whispers, stares, or distractions. What we had was real, and we wanted to protect it. It wasn't about sneaking around anymore, it was about building something slowly, without fear. I kept my focus on my work, and she did the same. And over time, things just clicked into place. As for Jordan, no one missed him when he was gone. It came out that he'd done this kind of thing before, spreading lies, manipulating situations for his own gain. He almost ruined something good between Emily and me. But in the end, he only exposed himself. Looking back, it still feels like a dream sometimes. A forbidden love that started with a quiet glance, a stolen moment, and nearly fell apart under pressure. But what I've learned is that real love doesn't hide forever. It demands truth. It survives the storm, not by chance, but by choice. So if you're in a situation that feels impossible, maybe your heart's telling you something your mind is too scared to admit, just know this: love isn't always easy. Sometimes it's messy. Sometimes it's risky. But when it's worth it, you'll fight for it. Just like we did. This was more than just my boss's daughter. This was the story of how something forbidden became something real. And even now, every time she reaches for my hand, I know I made the right choice.